Hollywood's most talked about talk show couple just gave fans something to smile about again. And this time, it has nothing to do with red carpets, awards, or their 30 years of marriage headlines. This time, it's about something a lot more relatable: what happens after the lights go out. Because Kelly Ripa just revealed the one thing that could test any relationship, and she made it very clear: she is not backing down from it. Not now. Not ever. Stick around, because this story says a lot more about their marriage than you'd expect. If you've watched even a few minutes of Live with Kelly and Mark, you already know these two don't hold much back. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos have built an entire daytime empire on being brutally honest with each other, live, in front of millions of viewers. It's part of what makes their show must-watch television. No scripts, no filters, just two people who've been together for decades, saying exactly what's on their minds. And today we're diving into their latest headline-making moment, one that had fans laughing, relating, and honestly falling for this couple all over again. Let's rewind for a second, though, because to understand why this story matters, you have to understand who Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos actually are to pop culture. Kelly Ripa first became a household name back in the 90s on the soap opera All My Children. That's actually where she met Mark Consuelos, her now husband, back when neither of them could have predicted just how big their story would become. They got married in 1996, and from there, Kelly's career took off in an entirely new direction. She became the co-host of the legendary talk show Live, working alongside names like Regis Philbin and later Ryan Seacrest, turning herself into one of the most recognizable daytime television personalities in America. Mark Consuelos, meanwhile, built his own successful acting career, appearing in shows like Riverdale, where an entirely new generation of fans discovered him. But it wasn't until 2023 that things came full circle. Mark officially joined Kelly as her co-host, and Live with Kelly and Mark was born. And here's the thing, a lot of people expected it to be awkward. A husband and wife working together every single morning, live on national television. But instead, it became one of the most beloved dynamics on daytime TV. Audiences fell in love with their chemistry, their teasing, their inside jokes, and yes, their arguments. Because Kelly and Mark do not pretend to have a perfect marriage on air. And that honesty, that's exactly why fans trust them. Which brings us to the story everyone's talking about right now. During a recent episode of Live with Kelly and Mark, the conversation turned, once again, to something incredibly relatable for couples everywhere: sleep. Or more specifically, the lack of it. Kelly has been open before about how loud Mark's snoring can get. We're talking full volume, wake the whole house kind of snoring. In past episodes, she's joked that no matter which room she goes to, she can still hear him. She's described trying noise-canceling headphones. She's talked about gently nudging him, jostling him, even lightly kicking him under the covers, all in a desperate attempt to get a few hours of peace and quiet. And if you're someone who has ever shared a bed with a snorer, you already know exactly the kind of exhaustion she's talking about. So naturally, the topic came back up again. And this time, Kelly addressed something a lot of couples have actually started doing in real life, the so-called sleep divorce. For anyone unfamiliar, a sleep divorce doesn't mean an actual divorce. It simply means a couple chooses to sleep in separate rooms or separate beds, usually because one partner's sleep habits, whether it's snoring, different schedules, or something else entirely, are disrupting the other's rest. It's actually become a pretty major trend across the country. Sleep experts have pointed out that more and more couples are opting for separate sleeping arrangements, not because their relationship is falling apart, but because good sleep matters. And when you're not sleeping well, everything else in life, your mood, your health, your patience, starts to suffer too. So when Kelly was asked whether she'd ever consider a sleep divorce from Mark, given everything she's said about his snoring over the years, fans were fully expecting her to say yes. But that's not what happened. Kelly made it clear, despite the noise, despite the sleepless nights, despite years of jokes about his snoring driving her up the wall, She is not interested in sleeping apart from her husband. Not now. Not after 30 years together. Even with all the frustration that comes with sharing a bed with someone who snores like a freight train, Kelly still wants him right there next to her every single night. And there's something genuinely touching about that. Because in an era where sleeping apart is being framed by so many as the smart, modern solution, Kelly Ripa basically said, "I'll take the bad nights, if it means keeping the closeness." Fans immediately started reacting online. Some called it one of the most wholesome things she said about their marriage. Others joked that Mark better invest in one of those anti-snoring devices immediately, because clearly he's not getting kicked out of the bedroom anytime soon. And a lot of viewers, especially longtime fans of the couple, pointed out that this moment fits perfectly into everything we already know about their relationship. They bicker. They tease. They call each other out, live on national TV. But underneath all of it, there's this constant, steady loyalty that never seems to waver. And that's really what makes their story so compelling to watch. Because let's be honest, celebrity marriages are constantly under a microscope. Every headline seems to be about breakups, tension, or scandal. But Kelly and Mark have somehow managed to build something different. They talk about their real issues, openly, without hiding behind a polished public image. They've discussed disagreements about traveling. They've joked about needing a little more romance in their routine. They've even poked fun at how differently they each handle stress. And instead of pretending none of that exists, they lean into it, publicly, with humor and honesty. This latest moment about the sleep divorce is just the newest example of that pattern. It's a small, everyday issue, something millions of couples deal with, but the way Kelly responded says something much bigger. It says that after 3 decades together, after raising 3 kids, after building overlapping careers, and now literally co-hosting a television show side by side every single morning, she still chooses him. Snoring and all. There's also something quietly powerful about how relatable this whole thing is. Because most viewers watching at home aren't thinking about red carpets or award shows when they hear this story. They're thinking about their own partner, their own sleepless nights, their own version of, do we push through this together, or do we take the easy way out and just sleep in separate rooms? Kelly's answer, delivered with her usual mix of humor and honesty, resonated because it wasn't some perfectly polished, PR-approved statement. It felt real. It felt like something your own mom, or best friend, or coworker might say about their spouse over coffee. And that authenticity is exactly why Live with Kelly and Mark continues to thrive in a media landscape that's constantly shifting. Daytime television has changed dramatically over the past decade. Streaming, social media clips, short-form content, audiences have more options than ever before. Yet Kelly and Mark's show keeps finding new life, largely because clips like this one travel fast across social media. A 30-second moment about snoring and marriage can rack up millions of views within days, introducing an entirely new audience to their dynamic who might never have tuned into a live morning broadcast. It's also worth mentioning just how far their story has come. From meeting on a soap opera set in the 90s, to building separate but equally impressive careers, to now standing together every morning as co-hosts talking about everything from koalas to complicated Pennsylvania pet custody laws. They've built something that feels less like a typical celebrity marriage and more like a genuine, lived-in partnership. One with disagreements, laughter, frustration, and a whole lot of love holding it all together. So, while this particular story might seem lighthearted on the surface, just 2 people joking about snoring on morning television, it actually taps into something much deeper about long-term relationships. The idea that closeness isn't always about comfort. Sometimes it's choosing to stay, even when things get a little noisy, a little inconvenient, a little imperfect. Kelly Ripa didn't need a dramatic statement to make that point. She just needed to say she wasn't interested in sleeping apart from her husband, and let 3 decades of marriage speak for itself. As their fans continue to follow every twist and turn of Live with Kelly and Mark, one thing keeps becoming clearer. This isn't just a talk show built around celebrity gossip, or scripted banter. It's a genuine window into a marriage that's messy, funny, occasionally exhausting, and still, after all these years, going strong. So here's a question worth sitting with. If you had to choose between perfect, quiet sleep or staying close to the person you love, snoring and all, which one would you pick? Let us know in the comments what you think about Kelly and Mark's latest moment and whether you'd ever consider a sleep divorce of your own. If you enjoyed this celebrity update, subscribe for more entertainment news and Hollywood stories.